It's how you look at it, right? Yeah. All right, we're on the clock. And it's 4:30 on Tuesday. Welcome. Welcome to the session. So thanks everyone for coming. The topic today is primarily to have Stuart talk about the transition Suncorp is going through to move from primarily an on-prem operation to a hybrid cloud model. And so I'm going to do a little bit of preamble about NetApp and then get Stuart up here to talk about what they've accomplished. And I will tell you to start, Suncorp has been a NetApp customer I've been at NetApp 10 years, as long as I can remember, and some of our connections go back even to companies prior to Suncorp. They've always been a critical customer to NetApp, leading us in where we need to go. And like Andy Jassy likes to talk about, we've always been a customer-focused company. And so Suncorp's been an awesome partner for us, and it's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to be here with Stuart and some of his team. Just to get started, a couple things about NetApp, and a little bit of this is myth busting, but we're number one in branded storage operating system. And I want to highlight operating system. If you don't know NetApp very well, NetApp is frequently thought of as a storage company. We get questions here about, why are you at the Amazon show? I thought you were a storage company. You know, aren't they going to kill you? Things like that. And so we've always packaged our software in appliances. But we are the number one storage OS. So our storage OS spans from relatively small systems to very big systems. We've just gone on through a major architectural transition to a scale-out model for our software, and it's made us number one storage OS in the world, cluster data ONTAP. The number one in public cloud storage is we architected we always call it secure multi-tenant architectures. The architecture has always been built around virtualized disk tiers, virtualized controller tiers, and secure multi-tenant operations. In the pre-cloud world, in the old world, that was great for your traditional service providers. It's also super portable for a public cloud world. So being number one in storage for public cloud is just to give you a sense. And public cloud, by the way, means a lot of big SaaS players and a lot of people that you use every day. NetApp is storage underneath them. And then number one in integrated infrastructure, we have a joint venture, sorry, to be clear, we have a alliance with Cisco on a project we call FlexPod, which is converged infrastructure. And because we both focused on how to work well in virtualized worlds between the server, the network, and the storage, that has become the number one integrated infrastructure. But the common theme running through this is that we've really built the company on data management and focusing on how to do it in software. And this is kind of a personal comment about NetApp. Today is a new era for us. And I want to thank you for coming and hearing us talk today. It's very exciting for us to be here. I was interested to see the Aurora slide. I knew this was in my slides, and it's like, man, exact same image. If you know what I'm talking about from Andy's talk earlier today. But we see a dawn where data management across a hybrid cloud is going to become something we all learn about and all care about. And we announced a product called Cloud ONTAP today. We didn't announce it. We turned it on live on the marketplace, generally available, so you can use ONTAP. Until yesterday, if you wanted to try our software, you had to go buy a box, and it would have cost you something like $20,000 isn't a bad guess, and it would have been one of those ugly stories of it took me a long time to go procure it and blah, 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 blah that we've been hearing all week from every vendor. So today, now you can go onto the marketplace, turn it on, and my joke has been, in about the time it takes to stand in one of these long lines for coffee, you will have an ONTAP instance up and running, and all the full features of Cloud ONTAP will be up and running on Amazon. I will add, I've become known as the guy at NetApp who is like the moth who goes to the flames. So if you ever think that NetApp is moving towards the cloud or concerned about it or messing around with the cloud, we believe that the cloud is changing, and Amazon is driving this change, is changing what enterprise IT is going to do. And that data management for the hybrid cloud is going to define NetApp. And just like we did with deduplication, so storage efficiency techniques that we pioneered years ago, just like we did by working with VMware when it was owned by our biggest competitor, we're going where we think customers could value what we do. So we're focusing in on the cloud, and we're really excited to bring the #1 storage OS to the #1 cloud and make it available to you today. So I'm a mechanical engineer, and clouds are not very mechanical until you kind of get right into the data centers. But when you think about sort of imagery of what this means, I really like Porsche Caymans. I'll give you a little bit why. Porsche Caymans are a very beautiful car that's very well balanced. Porsche designed it to be a beautiful, agile car, super high quality, perfectly built for the roads that it drives on. And that's sort of how I think about ONTAP and the Amazon platform. When it comes together, it's this beautiful synergy of great data management brought to the great cloud. Now, I'll give you a little bit less imagery. If you also think about, I have kids, they don't all fit in the Porsche, that kind of stuff. And so I might want to just have a Porsche for the weekend, not to own it forever. Well, with now ONTAP on the marketplace, you can do that. You can just rent it for a few hours, rent it for a couple of days. It's pretty good. Say I'm interested in going a little farther, I'll lease it. 6-month lease. We also have a bring your own license, AMI, available. You can lease it for 6 months. Say I want to own this thing for a while. And in computers, of course, once you buy it, you want it forever. So I want to own it. I can certainly do that too. And I can buy it in a model we call NetApp Private Storage, where the storage sits right up against the cloud, goes through Direct Connect to Amazon, and you own the storage and you use all the great compute resources up on the Amazon cloud. But the Porsche Cayman is a beautiful car, and I think you'll find our solutions are really beautiful. And with that, enough of a commercial for NetApp. Let me bring Stuart up and talk to you about what Stuart and the Suncorp team are doing with some of our technology and a lot of Amazon technology. Thanks, Stuart.
Cool. Thanks, Phil. And thanks for everyone coming to the session this afternoon. I do realise that Phil and I are the only people standing between you guys and the pub crawl, so I do appreciate you coming, and I hope you get something out of the session that's valuable. Bit of a quick introduction. Obviously, my name's Stuart. I'm from Suncorp. I am the infrastructure architect for Suncorp Group. That title probably gives you a fair indication of what I do within the organisation, but probably the best way to describe it for those who don't really know what an infrastructure architect does, at least in Suncorp, my role is very much around how we provision operating systems to a user, be it a developer or an end user, in a manner that's meaningful to them. So that may be, traditionally that's obviously been on-premise, and in the last few years that's now got a cloud focus and a cloud-first strategy. So I'm going to spend the next 20 minutes talking. I'm going to go through a little bit about Suncorp as a company and just lightly touch on our history in infrastructure at least. And that's important so that you guys can understand how we came to be to using public cloud and to be using AWS. And then I'm going to get into a few of the challenges that we've faced in our journey towards cloud, not specifically AWS, but just cloud in general. And the idea is there that through that you should see why we chose to augment AWS's native storage capabilities with NetApp Private Storage and the solutions, the problems that it helps us solve. I'm going to go a little bit into how we configured the platform, the 2 configurations. It is a level 2 session, so I'm going to try and stay out of the weeds, even though I would dearly love to get down into the dirt. And then I'll finish up with a little bit about what we intend on using the platform for going forwards. See if I can get this right. Nope. Slideshow fail. There we go. So Suncorp, who are we? We're a financial services organisation in Australia. You've probably seen our name around at both this reInvent and last year's. We're a little bit unique as a financial services organisation in that we are both an insurer and a bank, and that's a little bit unusual in our world. Most organisations are generally one or the other. We're a very fast-moving company. We do things very quickly. We've got a really strong agile culture, and we're currently moving into a lean phase as well in certain areas of the organisation. You can see the statistics there. We've got 15,000 employees, 9 million customers, excuse me. And generally a very good place to work, a very strong development community, lots of developers, lots of IT people, and we're very much an in-house shop. So, let's move forward here. We're from an infrastructure perspective, we're pretty much what you'd expect a very large organisation to be. You know, we've got one of everything, lots of many things, too many of others. We've got a very large x86 platform. We've got P-series, mainframe tandems, HPUCs, you name it. Basically, a big IT on-premise footprint. Obviously, we're a very big NetApp customer, and you can see there with the numbers, a lot of controllers, a few sites spread geographically around both Australia and New Zealand, and petabytes of storage. So that's around 5 to 7 petabytes, depending on how you count it on any given day. With that, I'd just like to go over a little bit about our journey through infrastructure so that you can get a feel for where we're coming from. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we merged with another company, and that involved a very big data center migration. As part of that, we made the effort to virtualize everything. So we've been virtualized for a very long time in both storage and x86 workloads, P-series obviously, and mainframes. And what we found is through that exercise, we got to a point very quickly where we needed to automate our infrastructure. And that was ahead of the curve. People were starting to do it back then, but there were no really mature products around how to do that. So we ended up writing our own. It's commonplace now, but back then it was something a bit new. And we built that on top of largely VMware and NetApp. And we learned a lot of lessons out of that, as you can imagine. And that that platform still exists today. And I will say with the announcement that was made in the keynote, it's probably on its last legs with the service catalogue announcement that came out. So fast forward up to when AWS started to become very popular, and a couple of years ago when AWS arrived in country I should say, in Australia, we realised that this is something that we want to be doing, and these guys are obviously doing it better than we are, both in the automation and the virtualisation space. So we want to get on board. And it was about 2 years ago, probably about 18 months ago rather, that we came over and we met with AWS. We wanted to see how the culture was. The culture's a big thing in Suncorp. We try not to work with partners that, in fact, we don't work with partners that don't meet our culture. And technology sometimes plays a second consideration when we deal with our partners. So we really liked AWS. We wanted to be there. Everyone at reInvent last year, show of hands quickly. You may or may not remember our CEO spoke during the opening keynote, Jeff Smith, and he pretty much articulated that our strategy going forward is going to be all cloud. So all into cloud, primarily AWS. And as you can imagine, that's made for a very exciting year for us internally. It's a bit different when your strategy is all in. You don't get to be particularly selective. You can't say, I'm not moving this app because you're saying, I need to find out how to move this app. And that's where things get particularly interesting when moving towards cloud. Now for us, another very exciting event happened in the last year, which kind of distracted is the word I'll use, distracted us from our long-term strategy of getting to cloud wholly and solely. And that was, we had a data center that we had to exit. We operate 3 data centers in Brisbane, and our second site was up for lease renewal, and we decided we weren't going to renew that lease, and which means we had to be out by the last day of this year. So that's a fairly aggressive time frame, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to attack that problem. AWS was the obvious solution. We have a tertiary site, a third site, but it didn't have the capacity that we needed to fit everything from the second site into the third site. So we needed some way of offsetting that capacity or augmenting it. And we obviously didn't want to go and get another data center because that kind of defeats the purpose. So we're faced with a bit of a challenge there in that we've got a very short amount of time. The date was immutable, had to be out of this site by the end of this year. And I will say that we are out of that site now. We closed it last week. which is really good. But how do we do that? How do we get stuff into AWS? This is a disaster recovery facility for us. We are a very traditional, infrastructure-driven disaster recovery model. We do everything. You know, it's a spanned or extended VLAN model. We've got a common hypervisor. We have storage obviously being replicated around. And our disaster recovery strategy really is infrastructure will bring it up and we'll let the apps guys know. That doesn't work in AWS, and we needed a way to make that work, at least for enough applications to make exiting that data center a reality. So that's where we approached NetApp, and we started talking to them around their NetApp private storage solution. And that solved one of the problems for us, which was the storage problem. To me, that's the hardest problem. They're all difficult, don't get me wrong, but the storage has got a lot of gravity, and there's a lot of it, and you really can't afford to lose it. If your network goes down or your compute disappears, it's a bad thing, but it's not tragic. And if you lose data or you lose storage, you're in a lot of trouble. So we chose to take that variability out of the equation, and in speaking with NetApp, they provisioned the NetApp private storage solution for us in the Direct Connect co-location facility in Sydney. So that was the Equinix facility initially, and that allowed us to move some of our workloads down, the data on those workloads at least, down close to AWS where we could attach them to EC2 instances through a Direct Connect, and that got us out of trouble enough to be able to exit that site. We moved a few applications in that manner. Obviously moving boot disks and root disks is an entirely different story. This is really around moving data volumes and being able to rehydrate the operating system to a point where you can use the data effectively in AWS. We used it for, the big ticket item for us was our virtual desktop. Suncorp has a virtual desktop that supports, I think it's about 12,500 people, so it's a fairly big beast. And we are now using AWS in Sydney as our disaster recovery target for that platform. It's not Workspaces, it's Citrix on EC2, or Citrix on VMware internally, and it's now down on Citrix on EC2. And we use NetApp to pull all of the user profile data and H drives and CIF shares, basically, of which there is a fair bit. So that really got us out of a bind with getting out of that data center. And as I mentioned, we've now exited it. It kind of worked as expected. I'll get to that in the configurations in a little bit. So this was the original plan, which we executed on essentially for a few of the key applications to free up that space. Basically, you know, on-premise is in Brisbane, snap mirror it down to Sydney, mount it up through the Direct Connect, and you're away. And we tested that, and we were able to achieve the results that we were after. So that was a big win. And now it's brought us to basically today, where we've got out of our data center, and that big distraction has now been moved on, and we can focus on our primary goal of getting into cloud. Some say the right way, but in more of a controlled manner, I guess, rather than just having to move stuff out there very quickly. So, where does this leave NetApp private storage for us going forward? We've encountered some particular challenges with our move to AWS, with our move to cloud providers. Being a regulated organisation and a financial services organisation, we've uncovered very surprising things about our data that we did know, but you know, they're now becoming very, very topical. And they're not all technical. In fact, a lot of them aren't technical. For example, although we may be the custodians of a lot of our data, or of all of our data, I should say, we don't necessarily own it. We look after data for other people, we manage data for other people, and those people tend to like to know where that data is. We have contracts where data centers are actually named in the contract. So these are very hard challenges to solve with AWS, especially if you're dealing with people, organisations that may not be ready for cloud yet. It's not to say they're not going to be or that they're against it, it's just that they're not ready yet. And we need somewhere to hold that data and keep track of it, where we can identify it on behalf, for our customers. We have other challenges too. We have data that, for whatever reason, we may wish to move geographically very quickly. We may want a copy of data in Brisbane 5 minutes after it was written. That's kind of difficult to do if you're with elastic block storage. You can do it, absolutely. There are tools that will allow you to do that. But it's a retooling exercise, and it's a big thing to go and get up to a file system level replication capability. Again, definitely possible, but just not within our appetite. So NetApp Private Storage will solve those sorts of problems for us. Obviously, there's the legacy file system, or traditional file systems, I should say, such as CIFS and NFS, applications that, for whatever reason, absolutely need that capability. Again, with an all-in cloud strategy, you don't have the luxury of rewriting everything. Not all apps are cloud ready, and if you're not cloud ready, a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that it's a legacy app, and that's not the case for us. We're putting everything out there, we've got stuff we want to keep forever, and it will never be cloud ready. So we need to be able to cater for those applications long term. There's some ancillary benefits there. You can do some big volumes on NetApp if you need those things. We may or may not use those capabilities going forward. The first three are probably the big ticket items, and then we've got this other requirement, which I'm not going to get into in too much detail because it's a huge topic, but it's basically our compliance recovery. So we are quite able to use AWS, or we intend to be able to use AWS for disaster recovery, primary facility, second facility, rapid failover, recovery point objectives, recovery time objectives, that type of failover model. But we also need to maintain, call it a data bunker or a tertiary copy, call it what you will, but we need to maintain the capability to restore data that is ours in the event of what we call a supplier failure. Now, in this situation, the supplier is obviously AWS. A supplier failure event seems fairly unlikely, and that is true if you look at it from a technical perspective. The precedent definitely hasn't been set yet where AWS has disappeared in a region or in general, but our risk and compliance guys they're very cautious around things such as legal disputes. Perhaps we don't pay our bill and we get cut off or something like that. That's going to cause a tremendous amount of trouble for us if, for whatever reason, we can't get our data out of AWS. So we have a requirement where I need to keep a copy of data, again, not within 1 or a 2 hour RPO or RTO window, but perhaps 12 hours, perhaps 48 hours back. I need to keep it somewhere such that if things go south with AWS, again, unlikely, but I need to have that somewhere. And NetApp Private Storage is looking to play a very big role in that for us going forward. And with the announcement of the actual on EC2 offerings a couple of weeks ago, we will probably look to integrate that capability as well into the solution in some way. Moving on to, so I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of the reasons why we're looking to use the platform. They're not all technical, some of them are, some of them aren't, but it really just gives us a lot of options. And when you're moving everything into AWS, options they're important. So with that, I'm going to move on to a bit of the technical stuff. This was our first configuration of the platform. This was a good starting point for us because we didn't need any presence from a Suncorp perspective in the DirectX co-location facilities. We didn't really want at that time to put kit in there. It's a lengthy process, it's expensive. In an organisation such as ours, procuring a new site is definitely not a trivial event. So under this model, NetApp provisioned the storage for us in the co-location facility. We ordered a direct connect. We handed the letter of authority for the direct connect to NetApp. Those guys terminated the direct connect. They did the BGP peering for us. And through that configuration, we were then able to link the direct connect from the NetApp side to our direct connects, which were being backhauled to Brisbane through the virtual private gateway inside the VPC. And that essentially allowed us to not only access the storage directly from EC2, which is the obvious requirement, but to also do snap mirror traffic down our primary direct connect through the NetApp direct connect and to the destination filer at the other end. I had my doubts about that configuration, I have to say, and it took me a little while to figure out, because I was fairly new to AWS back then, and it took a little time to figure out how that was actually going to work, which is why I wanted to share it today. The performance of that configuration worked surprisingly well. Our throughput through to the filers from within EC2 were as you would expect them to be. So on an MTU of 1500, it was about a 1.5 millisecond latency. No issues at all saturating the direct connect link, which was a 1 gig interface at the time. The filer performed as you'd expect the filer to. It was a 3 series FAS filer. So all in all, very, very successful. And the snap mirror traffic going down, even hairpinning it through the virtual private gateway, no troubles. Worked quite well, didn't have any scaling issues. No one ever rang us from AWS to say, hey, you guys are pounding the VPG. And when you look back on it, there's guys out there who are really pushing a lot more traffic through it than we were. So great solution if you want to get going quickly. Has a few caveats, obviously. You've got an egress data charge cost on the direct connect for snap mirror traffic, which, you know, it seems expensive, but if you actually look at the cost of procuring a site and putting switching equipment in a site, you might find that the comparison levels out pretty quickly. The other problem for us on that one was the loss of a direct connect would have isolated the storage domain. We could have mitigated it with a second direct connect, but we already knew at that point that we were going to use the solution and we were going to move on to the next model. And this is, if you're really going to be serious about it, this is probably the way to do it, in my opinion anyway. So in this configuration, we did go through the effort of procuring kit in both Equinix and Global Switch in Sydney. We extended our MPLS network out to those locations, which effectively makes it part of our network. This isolates the snap mirror traffic and allows it to flow without going through the virtual private gateway. We've moved up to 10 gig direct connects now. Performance is as you would expect. We're still working through how fast we can push those. At the moment, it supports the applications that we have in there, so there's no real urgency for us to do a whole lot of benchmarking, trying to saturate those 10 gigs just yet. But we've been very happy with that configuration. And the good news with that one is if we lose a direct connect, BGP will recalculate and we'll just go across the interconnect between the two facilities. Great for performance, great for, you know, long-term stuff. Expensive from our side, no different from NetApp's side obviously, but you know, we need to procure racks, we've got, you know, switches and whatnot in there. We've tried to keep those footprints down very low for obvious reasons. We don't want to own data centers, we don't want to lease data centers, but those two, we call them cloud pods. I think everyone calls them cloud pods, but those two racks are being used for other purposes as well. So we didn't just put them there to facilitate the NetApp private storage. We've got some firewall and, you know, F5 capabilities in there that we will be using for other things. So, quick slide. This is just showing that we carve up our V-filers based on VPCs. So we have VPCs that, you know, are public and private. We've got accounts that are production and non-production, and we restrict access to those VPCs based on a CIDR range. We do it back outside of AWS. We do it inside the switching layer in our rack. You know, VRFs and whatnot with the Cisco kit. Pretty easy to do, but just wanted to demonstrate that you can actually segment up, if you choose, your V-filer targets to be, you know, for particular purposes. So essentially this gives us options, and that the whole point really of this discussion and what we're doing with NPS, it gives us options. I've had discussions with people who've been talking about cross-mounting between clouds with CIFS and NFS. If that's your thing, we can probably try and facilitate that. We're a little bit immature to be tackling problems like that just yet, but you know, there are options that we could probably do that if we wanted to. You can see there the data that must remain in-house for whatever reason that is, we can handle that now. Systems which require a copy of data elsewhere, and that elsewhere needs to be a fair way away and at very fast intervals, we can handle that as well. But we will be using AWS's native storage as well for everything that doesn't need these requirements. Futures for us, our automation against storage isn't amazing, so we need to be better at that. Currently, the NPS devices exist in our on-premise, you know, existing automation capability. We will be looking to use the On-Command Cloud Manager product, which is free, which is great, to try and bring the provisioning of NetApp storage up to as close as we can to the experience that a user has provisioning EBS or S3. Obviously, it'll still be a two-step process, but we have improvements to make in our organisation around that. The compliance and recovery stuff that I touched on there around you know, the long-term archival and recovery solutions, not sure how we're going to tackle that yet, but it's definitely going to involve NPS to some extent. That's it for me. Phil.
don't go too far because we're getting close to the raffle, okay? Yeah. All right, so number one, thank you, Stuart. Just to kind of wrap up a little bit, we've been talking about Cloud ONTAP and NetApp Private Storage, NPS for AWS. And I just want to give you a little bit of a sense for how to position those two in your mind. The simplest way, I think, to think about it, if you understand, assuming you all understand AWS, is Cloud ONTAP uses EC2 and uses EBS, uses specifically GP2. In NPS, we use EC2, but as Stuart was talking about, the storage is NetApp storage, frequently in a colo, such as an Equinix. So then when you look at the consumption models, Cloud ONTAP has two basic models. One is the rental model, the marketplace model of a $1 per hour purchasing model. We also have what's generally known as the bring your own license or the 6-month lease in an AMI. In a NetApp private storage for AWS, it's a traditional buy or lease storage, so the way it's been done for years. In performance, for those of you who know NetApp models, the easiest way to think of the performance of Cloud ONTAP is, roughly speaking, a FAS 1000. It's about half the performance of our entry model, which is known as a FAS 2000. And I won't go to, you can go to the webpage for some details on performance, but it's very, very fast on reads. And then because our architecture requires NVRAMs, uses NVRAMs, we pay a little more of a write penalty when we're running Cloud ONTAP, so it's not quite as fast as a comparable hardware-assisted system on more of a read-write mix. But in general, the performance is extremely good, is the point. And then when you want to go to massive scale, you can go as high as you want in NetApp private storage, up to what's our model number known as a FAS 8000. So peak performance is clearly still in the hardware-assisted systems in NetApp private storage. In terms of availability, the first release of Cloud ONTAP is a single node system. So we're working on next generation work with both security and more availability, but the first release is a single node system. And then you can get all the normal NetApp capabilities of mirroring, as Stuart was talking about. Metro cluster we just announced in our ONTAP 8.3 release. So the maximum availability comes through the NetApp private storage. In terms of scalability, roughly speaking, think up to about 50 terabytes on Cloud ONTAP, and then petabytes and petabytes on NetApp private storage. And support and management are the same. It was very, very critical to us. This is the same ONTAP. So if you're thinking, did they do something funny like have some fake ONTAP for the cloud and real ONTAP is in hardware, something like that? That is not at all what happened. ONTAP is a piece of software that's portable, and so the exact same ONTAP that runs on the cloud, runs near the cloud, runs on your premise, it's all the same. So things like Stuart was showing around snap mirroring across that all works as normal. All your automation tooling works the same across all the systems. So those of you who know ONTAP already don't have to learn anything new in Cloud ONTAP. Stuart also mentioned a new product. There's a new product that we also have wrapped around Cloud ONTAP and NPS known as On-Command Cloud Manager. Stuart pointed out the price. Thank you for that. The price is free. And that is an automation, monitoring, and provisioning system that simplifies significantly operating in these hybrid models. So just as Stuart said, I really encourage you to take a look at On-Command Cloud Manager as well. And then there's one more bit of new news, is we purchased a product that some of you will know as the Riverbed Whitewater product. Some of you will know as the Riverbed Steel Store product. And you all get to know it now as the NetApp Steel Store product. We purchased this just a couple of weeks ago. It's orderable today, and we'll be shipping under the NetApp, through all the NetApp channels next month. And for those of you who haven't heard of the Steel Store product, it is the premier backup gateway backing up to S3. And I think that's pretty widely accepted. We put some of the awards that the product's been given. We're incredibly excited to have this product join our family of solutions for the cloud. So now we have both the ONTAP-based systems and the Steel Store system to give you backup, all kinds of primary applications. So we just keep extending the family in what we're doing with Amazon and the rest of the cloud. It's a very exciting time for us. Free seems to be the magic word today, huh? So if you go over to the Lamborghini or just get on your phone and type in AWS test drive, you'll see the NetApp logo, push the button, you can try for free all the solutions we're talking about, the NetApp private storage solution as well as the cloud ONTAP solutions. So as I said, it's a new era. Yesterday I would have had to tell you it's $20,000 to buy a system, or there's complicated discussions about how do you get access to the devices and try it out. That's not the same today. It's a whole new era. Test drive is by far the easiest way to get some runtime and give it a shot. All right, with that, I want to stop. We have 9 minutes on the clock. We have a raffle, but we definitely have a few minutes for Q&A. Any questions for Stuart or me? I will tell you, the first question we got last year was, are we going to do Cloud ONTAP? So I know I answered that one. Yeah, go ahead.
Stuart, did we have a hybrid architecture here?
Yep.
Part on-prem, part in the cloud. Did you do any work thinking ahead, maybe multiple clouds? Have you
Absolutely, yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that, if you wouldn't mind a quick?
Sure. So it's well known our Suncorp strategy is an all-cloud strategy. A very large percentage of that will obviously be AWS, but we are looking at other providers for the right workloads, I guess. Our user desktop could be a very good candidate for something like for Azure. In this model here, we don't have many other cloud providers on-premise, on-country. Got to stop saying on-premise. In-country. They're relatively new down there, so we haven't hooked up any additional providers just yet, but that is definitely on our roadmap, and we see that solution being able to very easily be shoehorned into an alternate provider if we need to. It really is just IP storage mounted down an IP tunnel, so as long as we can present that tunnel to 2 locations, there's no reason why we can't share storage between the 2.
Should I email you about that?
Sure, absolutely. It's still happening.
You better repeat that question.
Oh, sorry. How long was our journey with the regulator? So that's a tough question because in Australia we have APRA, who is our primary regulator, but we have other regulators as well for the different systems and the different platforms that we use. Our journey with APRA, we spent 3 months preparing and then presenting to APRA in, I think it was March of this year, and it was. Those guys were really good. They were very open to what we were doing, wanted to come along for the journey, and they understood what we were trying to do. So I won't say it was a small amount of effort though. We had a lot of people, like let's call it probably 30 people working pretty hard to try and make that a reality. So while I say it was a very smooth transition, there was a lot of work there. But hopefully the work that we've done might, pave the way for others to go forward as well. Yep.
I will tell you that Stuart and I were talking here last year, literally in our booth
literally
last
1 year ago. Yeah.
And it was just planning phase. It was conversational 1 year ago, and so you see how far Stuart and his team have come in 1 year.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Everyone wants the beer.
Everyone wants a beer.
Yeah.
I am with everyone. So it's time. It's raffle time, right? That's this is my favorite part of these jobs. We have a raffle sponsored by our friends from Equinix, and some of you know I like Ironman. GoPro sponsored the Ironman, so it's awesome. It's great that we have GoPros, huh?
Yeah.
It is the giveaway. Thanks, Equinix. And do you get to do the? Nice. Do you want to say something about Equinix real quickly before you?
Sure.
You guys, well, at least $300 worth of time, right?
I think that's probably at least an hour, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, no, come on.
I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Equinix in the room, but fundamentally we see ourselves as the on-ramp to the cloud. What we've created over 16 years is this very network-neutral environment that has brought specific verticals to that environment, cloud obviously being that one we're talking about here today. So being able to have that cloud choice, enable hybrid cloud connectivity is at the core of what we're trying to do. And we've come out with a cloud exchange, which is to that multi-cloud capability that he was talking about there, where you can actually have a direct fiber connection into the cloud exchange and have virtual connections to as many cloud providers as you want and be able to turn them up, turn them down in 5 minutes. So it's a hybrid cloud enablement strategy that hopefully will benefit some people in this room. So.
And just in global, so the key, you have to have global footprint, have your data centers in the right place so you're connected at the right latencies to Amazon, for example. Those are the reasons we work with Equinix. I mean, a great partner for us.
No, thank you for mentioning that.
So thanks a lot for the GoPro and for the great partnership.
Absolutely.
And with that,
so
yeah, let's
the
go.
Lucky winner.
Maybe we should let Stuart. No, okay.
It'll be awkward.
What
It'll be
do
awkward
you
if
guys
I win.
think? Whoever.
Who's looking luckier here?
Okay. I mean, Stuart's definitely the one we can all trust up here.
Sure.
Well, it's good.
The winner is keep this coupon. Oh no, hang on, it's the number underneath. 814-986.
986. You got it?
Well, backwards. That's the one.
Oh, no, 986. No, you have to have the real
You
number.
get the upside down version.
Redraw?
Redraw, okay.
Someone left early.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
gotta stay to the end.
I've picked up two there. They're stuck together. 814-964.
996. Oh, that hurts. Sorry about that.
He even got up on that one.
Yeah, people want the GoPro. So,
Redraw.
what'd you do, Victoria? You give it to all the people who left? Yeah, I really want one too, but I figured that would look bad.
814-968.
You got it now?
Got it.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
All right, that seems fair. All right, well, thanks. Congratulations. Enjoy your GoPro. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much. Enjoy the pub crawl.